What's going on? We got a special edition here of Beyond the Forecast. Two clowns in the room.
Woo! Woo!
I say that because we're both wearing New York Jets jerseys here. Meteorologist Steve Fundera here, joined by James Catato. We got a fun episode of Beyond the Forecast here. What's up, man?
Yeah, I'm pumped to be here. It's gonna be a fun one. A little sports weather hybrid.
That's the plan.
You've been sitting on this idea
For a while.
for a minute.
So
I'm pumped we could finally get it.
yeah, we
popping.
said, you know what, we'll throw on our jerseys here, have a good time here. We're going to rank the top 10 weirdest weather NFL games. Games you may remember watching as a kid because it was snowing or it was super rainy, or just, you know, games that had a weather aspect to it, but also a very important aspect to the game. Maybe it was a play that is in the record books. Maybe it was a play that changed the rules. Maybe there was a big controversy to it, sort of thing here. So we're gonna have a good time here, and we're gonna let it roll. Now I have a question for you, James, right off the bat, because we both had played sports growing up. You, big soccer player, correct?
Yep.
Football on the ground. I grew up playing football, and I remember as a kid, Pee Wee football, Pop Warner, 7 years old, the high school field was shared between the high school team and then all the Pop Warner, like the Little League guys. And they would do it 3 games every Saturday, and then maybe 4 if the high school game was playing. It would go with the oldest group would play first, like 7 a.m. kickoff. Then it'd be like the next group up, which would be like middle schoolish aging. And then it would be your 7, 8, 9-year-olds, like the Pee Wee guys, playing at like 10:30 a.m.
Yeah.
And then if games wrapped up, high school would play at noon or 1 o'clock. But we had a rain event on a Friday, and that Saturday, the ground was just soaked. So after 2 games, when the Pee Wees got on, when I was playing 7, 6 years old, it was like an ice skating rink. There was no grass. We were just rolling around in the mud. And as kids, you're just like, this is the best thing ever. You're just sliding around, like, you know what I mean, just rolling around in the mud. I remembered so much of that game. And I think we were playing Midland Park, was the town over, the Midland Park Panthers. We were the Waldorf Warriors, and we were just covered in mud. And then going home from, getting home from that game, your parents are pissed because you're like, oh my
It's a
God.
nightmare for the laundry.
Yeah, a day for the laundry. You have any memories like that, playing games in mud or snow or?
Yeah, I got a mud game.
Game.
Yeah, so because in upstate New York, I mean, snow was like whatever, like second nature, you know.
Yeah.
But my senior year on the soccer team, our Columbus Day tournament was like our big thing. That was homecoming because we didn't have football where I went to high school, right? So we were playing in the semifinal of our Columbus Day tournament on our home turf, and then around that time of the year, we play on the town park grass, which is right directly into the sun, and so a ton of the grass would get killed off.
Sure, because you just burned off
around that time of the year, And so in the mouths of the goal, because I was a goalie, it would just be dirt. Right? And so by the time the Columbus Day tournament rolled around, there was a pretty harsh rain that morning. We didn't even know if we were going to get the game in. And the mouth of the goal was just mud. Nothing but mud. And so I was wearing pink because it was breast cancer awareness in the goal.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so by the end of the game, the shirt, the jersey, the socks, everything brown.
You remember how many saves you had that game?
Probably like 12 or 13 or something.
Yeah, racking it in. You remember the score of the game?
We beat Holland Patton in overtime 2-1.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it was a big rivalry game.
The mud in that situation did not cause for any trouble. There was also a game I played growing up. The cold ones were the ones I never liked.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, you never had the gear for that. You know, when growing up, it was like Under Armour was just coming out. So you put the thin layer of Under Armour on.
Yeah.
And like you were running around playing contact football, and it's like 33 degrees out in like late October. 7 a.m. on a Saturday. You don't want to run. You're just like a kid being like, "Ooh, it's too cold. I don't want to go out there." And coaches are just like, "Come on, yeah!" Like living vicariously through the 1970s Ice Bowl or whatever. So it's some good time here. So we're gonna rank these weather games here in priority based on the impactfulness of the weather, but then also memorabilia. Like what you remember most of that game. Was there a crazy play that happened, or a change in the rules, something that changed the league or the games that then followed here? So let's let it happen.
Let's dive in.
Number 10 on the list, we got the 1988 playoff game between the Eagles and the Bears. This was playing at Soldier Field, New Year's Eve.
Yep.
This is a Saturday. I believe, December 31st. First quarter was totally fine. Second quarter, visibility started to reduce a little bit. This is the fog bowl here. Look at these picks here where the visibility was reduced by the third quarter. So right around halftime was down to about 10 to 15 yards. So like as a fan in the stands, you can't even see. You can't even see the guys lining up here. You know, it got to a point where Terry Bradshaw, the CBS, one of the color commenters, was like so frustrated because they couldn't see the game. He goes like, I'm more frustrated now than any time I've been as a player.
Yeah.
Because you can't see anything. So there was this kind of weird marine layer set up here in Chicago where there was a layer of fog that may only have been 15 blocks of the city. It was very small. So I was talking to Brian Michigan about this, kind of like a little layer of cold air underneath because the air was in the 30s, trapped by warm air over top of it. So it causes really low, dense layer of fog. It only lasted 3 hours. So if the game was later or earlier, it would have been fine. But I mean, you could barely see.
Would that be called advective fog?
No, I think that was more of an inversion layer.
Okay.
Yeah, because you had cold air trapped down at the surface. Normally it gets colder the farther you go up. So I think if you go up, it got warmer.
I'm trying to do weather with the weather guy.
Yeah,
so
weather
I'm
with
trying
the
to
weather
learn
guy.
some terms.
No, but you're here for sports here because, I mean, CBS, the helicopter had to land because they couldn't fly to get the aerial shots.
Yeah.
I mean, and in a game like this, you would think run game.
Run game,
Second,
big time.
third quarter, you got to go down to the run game.
It's, the craziest part about this is I was watching some stuff on it, and Mike Ditka's on the sideline just wearing shades.
The sunglasses.
And I'm like, I wouldn't even probably be able to see with the naked eye.
This is a field goal. They're kicking a field goal in this photo right here. The ref is looking up at the ball. You can't even see it.
What the craziest thing about this, though, is that Eagles still threw for 400 yards.
Who's the quarterback?
At that point?
Cunningham?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Cunningham? I think there's a picture. I think I loaded a picture.
At that point it is. They were interviewing a couple of Eagles players.
Right there you go,
yeah.
number 12.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Slinging it.
Yeah. And at that point, there were some Eagles players that were saying, like, I didn't want to go back out there.
Can't see.
Because you can't even see anything.
And the NFL was monitoring it in, like, ways of postponing it, and they didn't postpone it because they thought, all right, well, this isn't technically, like, life-threatening weather in terms of, like, severe weather.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, you're playing a contact sport. You can't see anything. How do you brace for a hit?
Yeah.
How do you know you're flying blind? So, like, I mean, it's a contact sport, so it's life-threatening in itself. But,
Can't
you know, it kind of is really dangerous. The Eagles players, like, they don't want to go back out there.
Yeah. That's what I was watching a little, like, documentary on it last night.
Like, they didn't want to get out there.
Yeah.
So put that number 10 on the list, the Fog Bowl, a playoff game. I think that was kind of impactful too. It was like, you know, highly watched playoff game.
You got to play it.
Bears won that one,
Yes.
20-12. Mm-hmm. Bears ended up winning, probably home field advantage. You know, whether they could see or not. All right, moving up the list to number 9. This one I think many of us might remember because it's from last year. I'm calling this the Jameis Winston Redemption Snowdown or Snowball game.
I can
like
roll
a
with that title.
snowdown, a showdown, so to speak. I think I threw this one on the list at number 9 because everyone loves a snow game.
Yeah.
Everyone loves when it snows. The fans love it.
The Browns loved it.
Yeah, the Browns loved it here playing in Cleveland. This was in, I'm pretty sure this was the Thursday.
It was Thursday night.
Thursday night game.
Thursday night game.
Week before Thanksgiving. First half was totally fine. Snow started falling around halftime or so. It didn't really amount to a lot, maybe an inch or two.
Yeah.
But it was pseudo lake effect, so it came down heavy. And you can see in the pictures those big fat flakes coming down where you really it's visually appealing. I mean, the afternoon high temperature was 40 degrees, so it wasn't like super, super cold. So this was probably like perfect snow setup for a football game where it doesn't snow too much, where you still have traction on the ground, you still can play the game, still can throw the ball, and it's just harmless kind of snow, you know?
I don't want to gloss over a point that you just made, though. You know, it was fine in the first half. And when I say it was fine in the first half, like I had the game on.
Yeah.
There was nothing.
There was nothing.
There was nothing in the sky.
The
there was nothing on the
Yep.
ground.
Yep.
The grass, the field was green. Visibility was like perfect. The game was played as normal. It was not a very good football game anyways. I mean, they were not playing a very good football game. And then when halftime hits and they start to dive into the third quarter, it just starts snowing like crazy.
Hard.
And I remember because the game wasn't like fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. I was like in and out watching the game, like cooking dinner and stuff like that. And then I kind of turn and I look away, and then like 10 minutes later I look back and the field is covered in snow.
And you're like, what's going on?
And you couldn't even. I remember the broadcast, the Thursday night broadcast on Prime.
So that's Kirk Herbstreit, right?
Yeah.
And
Michaels.
Al Michaels, yeah.
And they had to like put on CGI lines onto the field because you couldn't even see the actual lines on the field because they're white.
Yeah,
so they blend in.
And that was more so, I think, with the intensity of the snow coming down. I mean, really, it was inch 2, maybe 2 to 3 in some spots, but when it's coming down that hard, you can't visually see. So yeah, it's kind of the fun part about it. Turned into like a snow globe almost, where you see everything kind of swirl around in that picture here. And also, I think maybe the fun part about this and why this made the list, there's been snow games. There was plenty last year. There's a playoff game with the Rams and the Eagles. But this one, I think it was because that's when Jameis Winston was just really being Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that fun stuff he'd be doing on social media and kind of like, just goofing off and having a good time. And you saw that come out in the game towards the end of the game,
Browns
right? He led a game-winning drive.
Yeah.
Almost was a touchdown called back from him, and then Nick.
Well, he threw an interception too. I mean, so he was, because Jameis Winston, so he's an interception machine. Still,
being Jameis Winston.
But how I remember the game shaking out was that Russ couldn't move the ball at all, but really nobody could.
Yeah.
And so the ground game was big. I know Chubb scored the go-ahead touchdown.
Yep.
But Jameis got him down a couple of times. There was a really nice catch that I remember David Njoku making over the middle of the field that put him in the red zone that really set that Chubb touchdown up. Yeah.
Set it up.
And I was like, wow, to make that catch in the snow, blinding almost, it looked like.
Love it. So Jameis Winston, snowdown instead of the showdown. We're going to stay in the theme of snow. Number 8's a big one here.
Yeah.
Number 8 is a big one. 2017, December 10th, the Snow Bowl itself. This one's wild. Bills, Colts in Buffalo, talking about a huge lake effect snow dump, so to speak.
Yeah.
We're talking 1.5 feet of snow had fell across the Buffalo region. During the game itself, 8 to 9 inches of snow was falling here.
Mm-hmm.
Temps were in the 20s, so you're talking about being bitter cold, and visibility just shot. I mean,
that's
CBS,
Buffalo.
the TV producer CBS was claiming like this is worse than what you saw on television because we couldn't see, we couldn't set up shots, we couldn't get aerials, couldn't do anything. So it was just basically whiteout conditions. I mean, these guys playing in several inches of snow, almost 1 foot of snow. Yeah. And like in some of these pictures here, I'm just looking at what that must have been like running in look at that. Look at the line of scrimmage. You can't even see it.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't even see it.
There's snow covering their feet up to their ankles. And when Nathan Peterman is the quarterback for the Bills in that game,
and not our boy Tyrod Taylor,
not our boy Tyrod Taylor.
That was Tyrod Taylor's season. He was injured that game or something.
He was, he was on the Bills that season. Yeah. But I mean, it's Nathan Peterman has a hard time throwing the football when it's clear.
When it's clear out, But this was also a turning point for the Bills.
Big time.
And I think this was up there on the list because this was eventually. Did this end their postseason drought? I think this game did end their postseason drought when they ended up winning in overtime.
Yes.
13-7. They ended up winning in overtime. Bills end up advancing to the playoffs, which this is McDermott's first couple of years as a coach.
This is in the very beginning of his coaching tenure.
Of the McDermott. So kind of like got the ball rolling. When did Allen come out? Josh Allen. Was
18.
He 18? So like there you go. The next year he's playing as a rookie, 2019, and then rest is history. So I remember this game. I remember seeing this game and just kind of just being mesmerized by it. I don't know how the Colts did that season.
The
2017 Colts. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, who's a running back?
Yeah.
Is it there's a pick of the running back here. I mean, that's Shady McCoy, I think.
Yeah, LaShawn McCoy was at that time.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
He was on the Bills though?
Yeah.
That's why I threw that pick in there. I was like, oh, that's Shady McCoy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Personal testimony for this game.
You know it well.
I mean, living in Buffalo for a little stint of time, this is Buffalo to a degree. Know? And I mean, the year before this, there was something that was just like this. And I remember going to a conference, a leadership conference when I was in high school. And I remember the Buffalo branch of people who were supposed to meet up with us for this conference couldn't even leave Buffalo.
Yeah, of course.
You couldn't leave Buffalo.
I mean, you can't.
The snow was so high at one point. It was, I mean, there was a game similar to this in 2020, early 2023. The Bills played the Bengals. It was very similar. The Bills have moved 2 games in the past.
That's what I got here on the list. Yeah.
I mean, it's like.
I mean, last year they had to move the playoff game, Bills Steelers, to a Monday night.
I know. Yeah.
That was last season. And then, I mean, we're both wearing Jets jerseys right now. I mean, notorious for that. 2014, nearly 7 feet of snow fell in Buffalo. The Bills-Jets game had to move to a neutral site.
Yeah.
There was a huge nor'easter, or just kind of a snowstorm in general. It may have been lake effect in 2014, but you're talking about 7 feet of snow across the city of Buffalo. I mean, there's just notorious for this.
When Buffalo gets hammered, like Buffalo gets hammered,
it's
hammered
gnarly.
out with
You know what I mean? So snow games are fun, but more so in the number 9 on the list when it was the Cleveland Steelers, just kind of a nice little dusting here or there.
Which is why, Bills fans, or I guess not really Bills fans, because a lot of Bills fans are happy about the fact, like true Bills fans are happy about the fact that the new stadium that's being built across the street from the Highmark Stadium that's going to be done now in 2 years does not have a roof, because in its fullest extent, this is Buffalo football tradition.
There's a charm to it.
This is playing in a snow globe and being such a hard place to play when it's like this. You gotta go and you gotta beat the Bills, because they're still gonna throw 55, 60,000 fans in the stadium,
and also they're still gonna throw the ball.
And they're still going
to their offense is, they can still run. They could still run the table in terms of airing it out or getting the ground game going, regardless of the conditions here. So it's kind of the part of the. Do we call it charm?
Yeah, it's the charm of Buffalo.
The charm of Buffalo.
The new stadium is right across the street from the old stadium.
So they're not moving it in a way where it's getting any better. Yeah. All right, here we're going to take a quick little break here, and then when we come back, we'll get into the next couple on the list here. So stay with us. All right, welcome back. Sports Wrap anchor James Catato in the house. How we doing? Fellow Jets fan here with me.
Unfortunately.
I think it's funny that you do have the Aaron Rodgers jersey on.
Yeah,
right now. I mean, kind of had to, in a way.
Yeah, it's
right?
it's my first Jets jersey as an adult.
There we go.
So I had. Did
you have a Revis jersey? I had a Revis jersey.
I did not have a Revis jersey. I had a Wayne Corbett jersey.
Oh, come on.
I had a Joe Namath jersey. No gloves. I had a Wayne Corbett, Joe Namath, LaDainian Tomlinson jersey.
Dude, remember when LT?
Yeah.
Sean Green LT combo?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun, man. That was fun. This number 7 jersey right now, where am I going? This is not Justin Fields, by the way.
No, it is not.
This is the punter, Tom Tupa, from, I believe, 1998 to 1999. Look that up. When he had to fill in to play quarterback. And the punter for the New York Jets threw 2 touchdowns and threw for 165 yards, 2 touchdowns, almost won the game. He also threw 2
Probably
picks.
the best quarterback that we have had.
I would think. Well, I mean, yeah. And, in true Jets fashion, there was some game where they didn't have a quarterback as the backup, so they had to run it with the punter. So that's why we're wearing the jerseys, having a little bit of fun here. All right, number 7 on the list. We just went through the snow games. We're going into the Windy City Showdown. This is from November 13th, 2005. Nothing really crazy about the weather in this one. I mean, just it was super windy. It was almost like a springtime game. This was in November, so November 13th, 2005. 2005. Bears ended up winning 17-9. It was a warm day in the upper 50s, low 60s in Chicago. So wacky kind of Midwest weather, very spring-like. A couple days later, the temperatures did crash into the 30s and 40s. So tells me that we had a warm front, cold front combo. Warm front lifted up north. You had a big surge of warm air that came in with a wind. And peak wind gusts reached over 50 miles an hour during the game. So obviously, you couldn't, throwing the ball is tough.
Yeah.
Kicking field goals is tough. I don't have any stats on how many missed field goals there were. But there was one really crazy thing that happened during that game. I don't know if you recall.
Yeah, so it was lining up for a field goal. The 49ers lining up for a field goal. And the one thing that you see on the broadcast is how nasty the flags on top of the goalposts are just flying in the wind.
Howling.
And the broadcast even circles it and goes, be on the lookout for this, because this may not go. And
it was a long field goal, too,
It was a pretty long field goal.
At least maybe 35 yards
I think it was a little longer than that. But it
had to be. Yeah.
It might have been in the 40s. And I remember the kick is up, and it starts at one goalpost and swings all the way to the other and then stops dead and just falls right into the back of the end zone. But somebody on the Bears
was smart enough to get back
is right back there.
Yep.
And so then 108 yards.
108 yards.
And you bring it back to the crib from there. And that's, I know it was an 8-point win, but that's pretty much like
that was like the
game changer right there.
And also, I think that 108-yard return had set the NFL record for the longest play.
Yeah.
Then, of course, that's changed now.
Yep.
There may have been 109, 110-yard return, whatever. But that moment, that was the longest NFL play on record in 2005, 108-yard return. And that was how the first half ended.
Yeah, it was
49ers were going to, right at the end of the half. So, like, there may have been no score. I don't know if there was a score or not. It may have been 3-0 or something.
And that return was nasty, too, because he cuts up the left side of the field, and then
there's
a swarm of bears come in. He cuts back, loops around back on the right side, and then
goes
just
all the way
takes it down the right sideline. So, I mean, he didn't run 108 yards. He probably ran
125,
125, 140. Like, that's he probably ran around that, like, in terms of distance covered.
Big return.
Yeah.
And I wonder, let's see, no, you're saying the wind was howling to left. Kick went right to left. So,
well,
he might have had the wind at his back. He might have had the wind at his back.
The kicker?
No, the return.
The runner. Yeah,
returner. He might have had it
because
it stopped dead. He might have had it. He might have had it at his back here. All right, so number 7 on the list, I'm calling it the Windy City Showdown. We are moving forward to a wet weather game. Number 6 on the list. This is a personal favorite of mine. The Monday Night Mutter.
This was so funny.
This is insane. The Monday Night Mutter of 2007. Steelers Dolphins playing at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. They put new sod down on the field, and it didn't have enough time to settle in, so the grass was just basically wasn't even grass. It wasn't even attached to the ground. And there was, we're talking late November here, so this is November 26th. This was actually the Monday before Thanksgiving. And so highly watched game at that point, Monday Night Football, holiday week. You had a weird warm front, cold front combo that absolutely soaked Pittsburgh. Almost an inch and a half of rain fell leading up to the game and then kind of throughout the game. The game also had to be delayed due to severe weather, which is also very unusual about Pennsylvania to get severe weather in deep November. Late November, you're pushing December. You're talking about lightning and thunderstorms. Like what? That, it should be a colder game. This was a day where highs were near 60, so they're probably playing in the 50s in the rain. And just absolutely zero traction. And it was a boring game. And I remember watching this, and this was a game that I realized that the boring games actually could be exciting towards the end.
Yeah.
Because they're tied up. This was 0-0.
And the Dolphins were terrible.
And that was the year the Dolphins were...
Trent Green was the quarterback.
And they
awful.
fell to what, 0-16 that year?
They were 0-12 at this point.
They were 0-12 at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. After this loss, they fell to 0-12.
Yeah.
And the Steelers won on a last-second field goal.
Yeah.
3-0 was the end of this game. So you think it's like, that's a boring game, watching it the whole way. But there was something that I remember watching it live.
You talking about the punt?
The punt.
Yeah.
The punt.
Yeah, of course.
Where I think Steelers were punting or Dolphins were punting, and the ground was just no traction on it. Punted it. Dolphins punted the Steelers. They called kill, fire, whatever. So everyone's getting away from the ball. Waiting for it to bounce. And it just didn't. It just came flying down, just
you know what it reminded me of?
Right in the ground.
It reminded me of a plugged golf ball.
Yes, that's exactly it.
You hit a plugged golf ball, and for any of the golfers out there, when you swing a club and it's wet conditions, it doesn't even have to be muddy. Wet conditions, and you hit the club a certain way on like a wedge, and then it just drives into the ground.
It just stuck,
and it doesn't bounce or move at all. It's exactly what the football did on a point too.
Yeah, and exactly because the point came down.
Boom.
I mean,
it was hilarious,
and everyone kind of reacted, waiting for the ball to bounce and like this. And then I think I don't know if it might have been Jim Nantz on the call. Actually, no, he's CBS. He wouldn't.
It was not Nantz.
It was not Nantz because it was ESPN.
Yeah,
or whoever's doing Monday night then. And I remember they said that they're like, oh, it looks like they put it right on the tee. It's just a classic. I remember that watching that as a kid. I remember falling asleep because it was such a boring game, and then waking up towards the fourth quarter and then watching the final drive. And then them Steelers winning on a game-winning field goal. That's Ricky Williams there, right, for the Dolphins?
Yes.
Was this the Dolphins fell to 0-12? I want to know if the next year was the year the Dolphins threw in the Wildcat. Do you remember that when they had Ricky Williams? There was another running back as well, and they just it was the first time that NFL had experienced a Wildcat.
A Wildcat formation.
And the Dolphins were, I don't know, they have a couple wins into the season. They started throwing in the Wildcat formation, and they lit up the Pats, and it was just like. Was the first loss the Pats had in a while to the Dolphins with Tom Brady. Do you remember that at all? Or no?
I don't.
No, you don't remember that? I remember they first implemented that, and we were kind of blown away. And I'm wondering if that was the next season or the season after, because it was still when Ricky Williams was on.
They're still
he had
probably
like 5 touchdowns that game, I think.
They're still probably 4 years away from Ryan Tannehill at this point, right?
2007.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're probably 4 or 5 years away from Tannehill.
And this is when I remember just like the AFC East was just the Patriots.
The Patriots.
That was
literally nobody else.
You know,
yeah, because the Bills were terrible.
The Bills were
Jets
well.
were terrible.
Jets have always been terrible.
Yeah.
And then the Dolphins were just kind of in a horrible slump, you know.
Yeah.
And now here we are. Jets still terrible, and now it's the Bills.
And now it's the Bills.
We're moving to top 5?
Top 5.
We're moving to top 5 here? I think so. Let's get it rolling here.
Let's do
Now we're going cold here, James. Top 5 on the list. We're going to the Freezer Bowl. And we're also going way back to 1982, January 10th. We had Bengals, Chargers. This is a playoff game. This is the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Being held in Cincinnati.
Which is cold. Cincinnati can be so cold.
Which is very, very cold. Air temperature, 9 below Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Wind, 27, 30 mile an hour sustained winds. So a wind chill factor of 40 below. I couldn't even, I mean, we're talking about playing in cold conditions as kids and with our little layer of Under Armour being like, oh, I don't want to get out there. How do you, I mean, some of these guys aren't even wearing gloves. Not even wearing sleeves. And
how much does adrenaline play into something like this when you're talking about such a game with such high stakes like the AFC Championship game? You know?
Yes. But also at the same time, as a fan, how you showing up to that in the '80s? You talk about the technology in cold weather apparel.
Yeah.
Is nowhere near what it is now.
That's
how are you staying warm and all that?
They always say that the older generation has more grit than the younger generation.
Is it more grit or is it more Budweiser? I don't know. What was served at the tailgates?
True.
To that, you know what I mean? How many hot dogs were you throwing down? How many buds were you throwing down to just like stay warm during that game? Frostbite is possible in those conditions, by the way, in 10 minutes if you're not properly dressed for it.
Oh.
So I mean, you're talking about them out there. I mean, you see the guys on the Chargers dressed to the T.
Yeah. Clean jerseys.
Final score of that, Bengals won big, I think.
Yeah, Bengals did win this one. Yeah.
27-7. So, fun fact of this game. The Chargers previously had beat the Dolphins the week prior, so that's the AFC divisional round.
Yeah.
In Miami. They're playing in Miami. It was an overtime thriller. They won 48-38, but they're playing in Miami. High temperature was 88 degrees. It was hot and humid. So from the divisional round, you're going, as the Chargers, playing from 88 degrees, hot, humid, to then flying to Cincinnati to play in 9 below.
Yeah.
That is a difference of 150-degree temperature change.
Well, which is, I love that about sports, right? Because you saw that this year in the college football playoff, where Tennessee had to travel to Columbus to play
or SMU
Ohio
had
State.
to go to State College.
Yeah,
Same
that's the beauty about postseason sports like this, is you're putting yourself in a different position. That's why I'm glad college football is doing this now.
Because home field advantage really plays a factor in this. Really kicks it into gear.
You don't know. And at this time, I mean, the Chargers are, well, I guess even now they still are, but, you're a West Coast team. So you're used to playing to all of this consistent weather.
Oh, yeah. The actual Bengals head coach, Forrest Gregg, was a player for a team that is later on in this list.
This little tease
for something very similar to this setup. A little teaser to move ahead. All right. Moving ahead to number 4 on the list. Might be my favorite on this
Legendary.
list. Might be my favorite on this list. Number 4, Purple Rain in the Rain. Super Bowl, is that 41? 42?
I'm so bad. Yeah.
I can't do it either.
I'm so bad with the Roman numerals, dude.
I wrote it down somewhere. I guess I didn't write it down. Anyway, it was Colts-Bears in Florida, February 4th, 2007, pouring rain. Prince performing the halftime show ends his set with Purple Rain in the pouring rain. I mean, he's playing 3, 4, 5, 6 different electric guitars wirelessly hooked up. So that was a whole fiasco in itself.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to that in a little bit here. I mean, we're talking about rainfall pretty much about an inch, so not like a significant rain event, but it rained during the entirety of the game.
Yeah.
So significant enough that it was a Super Bowl with just crummy weather. I mean, and that's also when we had peak Peyton Manning.
This was prime Peyton. Yeah.
Prime Peyton, first win for them, I think.
For Peyton, yes.
For Peyton,
yeah. First Super Bowl championship for the Colts.
I mean, this is with who's their tight end? Clark, number 44.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You had Reggie Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Did we have Harrison? Was he on the team here?
Yeah, we had Marvin Harrison. Yep.
All right. And then, of course, this was the Rex Grossman of the Bears, the elite linebacker core of the defense of the Bears, right? With
this was like some really elite. This was also Devin Hester, Chicago
That's what I was gonna
Bears.
say. The one thing I think we all remember about this game was the first play.
Yeah, the kick return.
What happened in the first play, James?
Devin Hester bringing it back to the crib. I'm looking at the stats right now. I'm trying to see what his kick return stat was for this game because
for the year, because I know but for the stat, but for the year, I mean that was it. He was the guy. He was known as the kick return guy, and the Colts went in kicking off and said, "Hey, we're going to take defense first."
92 yards.
It was a 92-yard return here
to
open up the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and everyone sitting at home knows Colts.
Everybody at home.
They say, all right, don't kick it to Devin Hester. And what do? Kick it to Devin Hester. And everyone at home is going, man, wouldn't it be cool if he returns the kickoff for a touchdown to open up the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And he just goes out, well, hold my beer. Let me do this.
Indianapolis Colts leading receiver was not Harrison or Wayne in this game.
It was not.
No.
Who was it? Was it tight end?
Joseph Adai.
Joseph Adai.
66 yards. So they were not. I mean, if you really look at it, like this was a very rush heavy game. Like Peyton only threw for 247 yards.
And for Peyton Manning standards, that's not good at all.
He was sacked. He was sacked 8 times in this game.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Rain may have played a factor in that, of course.
Also, the
just like the Bears defense was just incredible.
Disgusting.
I mean, you think about the Bears season. I remember that it was Rex Grossman as a quarterback.
Yep.
They had a solid run game.
Yep.
Good O-line, good and incredible defense, and that's what won them the NFC to get. So
yeah, I mean,
by all means, not like the most high-powered offense of the Bears, but you had the high-powered offense of the Colts against just like the elite, one of the best defenses the Bears has had in some of their franchise history. I mean, we're not talking about 60s, 70s, 80s Bears where it was just unstoppable. But this was kind of
this is
Brian Urlacher.
I was gonna say Brian Urlacher, Charles Tillman. This was an elite Bears.
The big boys.
Yeah,
the big boys. And just having it rain all day or rain all for the thinking we're playing Super Bowl in Miami, Florida. Is it gonna be great? Weather will be nice. And it's like nope, we're going 60s, kind of like a nor'easterly little setup, a little bit rain for the entire time. And I will throw my hat into the ring here. You can come at me in the comments and say this is arguably the best halftime performance. I would put it in at least top 5 halftime performances. If you've never seen it, James,
I've seen it.
Go back and rewatch it here because Prince is just again playing 3, 4, 5 different electric guitars in the pouring rain. He does a medley of some incredible rock and roll. His guitar solos were just off the charts, and one of the stage crews. And coordinators for his performance during the interview about this, trying to coordinate any sort of adjustment that he may need for the show. Because they're just worried about the technology, the electric stuff. This is rain. Is any of this going to work? They go to his dressing room, knock on the door, and ask, hey, Prince, what do you need? Do you need to make any adjustments? Do we need to change anything? What do you need? The rain is going to keep going. What do you need for this performance? And Prince was quoted just saying, make it rain harder.
Yeah.
He says, make it rain harder. And that's just classic Prince, classic rock and roll. You had arguably one of the best halftime performances in Super Bowl history, which is why many people watch the Super Bowl to begin with. And then one of the most electric openings of a football game with Devin Hester here. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to the top 3. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, James. How we doing, man?
Good.
How many coffees you had today?
Just this one. No Trenta.
What is
Trenta.
that?
It was a salted caramel cold foam. How you doing? Something, That's
the stark differences here. I'm just drinking black coffee.
I'm normally a black coffee guy. I'm trying to get my calories in. I just got over a pretty gnarly cold, so I'm trying to
get the fuel in.
Yeah,
got a long day. He's also shooting some sports rap sit down. Content today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's going to be good
stuff.
Yeah,
good stuff. All right, we are moving to the top 3 of our top 10 wackiest weather games. And we are going way back to a game that many of us don't remember, or many of us may not even know existed. But we're going back to the 1934 NFL championship game, Giants-Bears in New York City, December 9th, 1934. We're calling it the Sneakers game because it was. We'll get to that in a second here. We'll get to that in a second. But there was a freezing rain event leading into the game day prior. Temperatures then on that Sunday dropped into the 20s. So the rain that had fell during the game froze on the ground in contact and then never melted. So the ground was just ice. I only have one photo here from Getty Images of the game that we're able to share via our licensing here. And it's a good one because it kind of shows the field in the back was slick, was icy. And a big thing about this game was traction. You're talking about in the 30s with 25 degrees, cold. I don't know how many people are at that game. You know, it was in the Polo Grounds of New York City. I don't know. I think that was in like maybe that was in Central Park or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Polo Grounds.
30s?
I mean, that's first of all, Polo Grounds is a baseball stadium. You know?
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you for the intel.
Yeah, so Polo Grounds, one of the more intriguing baseball stadiums of all time. So the left and right field porches are like 230 feet to the wall. But the dead center field is like 510 feet.
So it's just like long and narrow?
It's one of the most interesting dimensions to a ballpark of all time. It probably is the most interesting dimension of a ballpark ever.
Which makes sense why they're playing a football game in there.
Which makes sense why they're playing a football game because you can go just dead straight down.
Do you think they built it that way? Or do you think they just built it and they just like ran out of room doing it?
I think it was so strange. I remember the first time I ever played Polo Grounds was on a video game. And
you could do that.
Yeah, you could play Polo Grounds, MVP Baseball 2005.
All right.
And
you're just looking at the dimensions being like
and this. I remember playing and I'm like ripping home runs down the line and I'm like, that went out so easy.
And then you go hit the center field and it barely makes it halfway.
Yeah, and it's just like a pop out every single time because you crush the ball 460 feet and it's not gone.
It's not even making it.
You know, so yes, you could. My whole point is you could play football here, but this is a baseball stadium.
This is a baseball stadium. There we go. Was a day in December, again, ice cold, and since the ground was pretty much frozen over, this is why I think one of the reasons why this is so high on the list. Giants head coach had one of their assistants run over to Manhattan College.
Yeah.
Second quarter of the game to get sneakers from the basketball team from Manhattan College. Literally borrowed their sneakers that they needed the next day for their basketball game that would be indoors. The Giants ended up swapping their cleats at halftime for sneakers because they thought it might get a little better traction. One of the players had suggested it. One of the coaches had suggested it. What if... Because the cleats back then weren't flexible. They were probably just like a little thing of leather on the bottom with like maybe 4 spikes to them.
A couple of studs, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, like 3 on the front, 2 in the back. No, like, they don't have any traction with it. And the Bears were leading 13-3 headed into the fourth quarter. So up by 10 points. The Giants swap into sneakers. And they then go on to score 27 unanswered points in the fourth quarter.
It's an advantage, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And they just decided, hey, we're going to wear shoes instead, sneakers.
So here's another piece. A lot of the shoes didn't fit the players. And so they had to tape their feet to the shoes.
It's like do big wraps?
Yeah.
Tape them around?
Big wraps because a lot of the players couldn't fit into the shoes.
Oh, it makes sense. You're borrowing a bunch of other players' sneakers.
And then the Giants actually put out an incredible documentary on this. The Bears head coach at the time, George Hollis, said the Bears knew about the sneakers in this game. And so at the start of the second half, Hollis said, good, step on their feet.
Well, I mean,
because
if they're doing something they're advancing, like, I wonder if that's a uniform thing now. It's got to be.
It's got to be.
It's got to be like there's got to be certain space. You can only wear certain kind of cleats, certain kind of shoes, all that kind of stuff, right? But those 27 points that were unanswered in the fourth quarter in an NFL championship game still stands as an NFL record today. That's why we also put this one high on the list. 27 unanswered points in the fourth quarter of a championship game still stands as an NFL record today. The Giants going into this game 8-5. Bears were undefeated. Bears were 13-0 going into this game. This could have been a Bears undefeated season. We only have the Dan Marino Dolphins with the undefeated, where it's 12, whatever it was, 13-0 or something.
Death taxes and the Giants stopping undefeated seasons.
Now that's it. So this was the OG one.
Yeah,
this was the OG one before they stopped the Patriots in 2007, 2008. thought that was just super fascinating. You're talking about 27 points unanswered in a fourth quarter, still stands today. And you think about the 28-3.
Yeah.
Right? Pats, Falcons.
Yeah.
That was an incredible comeback.
Yeah.
But that was back and forth. That was
yeah.
the whole second half, back and forth, third quarter, fourth quarter kind of deal. So there we go. Number 3 on the list, the sneakers game. Make sure you got proper cleats here. All right, moving to number 2, one of my favorites. These are all my favorites here. Tuck rule game, James.
This was a fumble.
Yeah, I think as Jets fans, this
was
absolutely
a fumble.
was a fumble.
I'm sorry to be a hater. This was a fumble.
Come on. January 19th, 2002. I think I said that incorrectly. Maybe it's 2001. Anyway, tuck rule game is an overtime victory for the Patriots. Temperatures in the 20s. Big snow event during the game. Kind of a nor'easter where there was a low off the coastline. Classic New England nor'easter. Had about 4 inches of snow falling between 6 p.m. and 2 a.m. The heaviest of the snow fell for about 2 hours between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m., which was the game time. 8 o'clock kickoff, you're talking about divisional round, probably night game. So the heaviest of snow, and it was on the game-tying drive. What happened there, James?
So Brady gets broken up, I guess you could say, right? He gets rushed, and he's in a throwing motion, and the ball comes out. But it was weird because, like, normally when you make a throwing motion and you're throwing forward and the ball gets knocked out, it's ruled an incomplete pass. But Brady tucks the ball and isn't in a throwing motion anymore, and then it gets punched out. And then the broadcast goes, the officials review it, they call it an incomplete.
And well, first off, the Raiders recovered.
The Raiders recovered.
Yes. Because they played it as a fumble.
Yes.
And the Raiders had recovered the foot as a turnover.
Yes. And
game-sealing sack
game
fumble.
sealing, big deal.
Sack fumble for the Raiders.
And then the booth reviews it, and they review it, overturn the call, and then the Patriots kick a field goal. And then it goes to extra time, goes to overtime.
Then it goes to OT, and then what happens in OT?
Brady leads a charge down the field, and
they kick a field goal and win it.
And they win the game.
16-3.
This game was in 2002. This was in
2002.
This was in 2001 season. But this game was in 2002. Yeah, John Gruden's.
I have it there.
John Gruden's Raiders.
I mean, they were playoff 2 seasons, 3 seasons. I mean, they were AFC, strongholds. And this was kind of just. What was a bummer because this was kind of towards the end of that, where after that the Raiders kind of fell off a little bit.
Hard.
Fell off hard. And they came back a little bit with Derek Carr years later. One of those games we always remember playing. It's in the highlight reel with Brady running in the snow in Foxborough. And it made a rule moving forward.
Because
there was a rule change moving forward.
Yes.
They called it the tuck rule. And now it's a whole new rule in the NFL thanks to our favorite quarterback, Tom Brady. Yeah. All right, moving forward to number 1 on the list before we run out of time here. We've got the 1967 NFL championship game. So another championship game on the list, 2 of them. This is the Ice Bowl, played on New Year's Eve at Lambeau Field. Packers, Cowboys.
Look at that image.
This was and still is the coldest NFL game on record. Kickoff temperature 15 below. Wind chill around 36 below. So not as cold as our freezer bowl, which was 9 below. This is 15 below. Look at the Cowboys player there sitting on a big heater. You had, Packers win 21-17. So close game. Close game. So what ended up happening, which made this considered the Ice Bowl, not only was it the coldest one on record here, 15 below, but they had put a tarp over the field to protect the grass leading up to the game. That caused dew and moisture to form underneath the tarp.
Yeah.
And then when that morning rolls around, they're getting ready for the game time, they take the tarp off. All that moisture is still there. It's wet, and it freezes just like that. So the field was ice.
Yeah.
Absolute ice. I don't know much about any statistics in this game, playing-wise, players or anything like that, but I do know there was just some weird stuff that happened, like one of the officials went to use the whistle, and his lip stuck to the whistle because there were metal whistles back then.
Yeah.
And it tore his lip, and his lip started bleeding, and then instead of just getting a Band-Aid or forming a scab, the blood just froze.
Oh, that's nasty.
His blood just froze. CBS announcer was quoted saying, "Well, I'll just take a bite of my coffee," as a little bit of his coffee in his mug had like frozen into chunks and stuff like that, sitting out there. I mean, I guess they had their windows open in the press booth.
Yeah.
Was the heat not running or something?
Well, and that's the other thing too. You know, you look at the advancement of technology and field care. It's like fields are heated now. You know,
and
it's
the big
like
heaters at the end.
Yeah,
and
underneath the actual surfaces
and on the sidelines.
I was watching old videos of this, and you could see icicles around like the tops of Lambeau Field. You know, and it was like almost something that you would see out of a Christmas movie. It looked so cool. Yeah, Don Meredith was the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. This was not a very aerial assault game for the Dallas Cowboys.
Could have been. I mean, but also going back here, old school games like this, 36 below wind chill, frostbite is possible in 10 minutes or so. And you saw that pick. They're not wearing sleeves. The guy's not even wearing gloves.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
You know, like I got the adrenaline running. I mean, they're just wearing, a couple layers, I guess. It's just impressive in that regard. Also, going back, if we remember the Freezer Bowl, number 5 on our list, the Bengals head coach, Forrest Gregg, played in this game as a member of the Packers.
And Bart Starr, I think, was the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers.
Was the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers.
Diced.
Number 12, I think? Yeah.
Yeah, diced up the Cowboys defense. I think he threw for 2 touchdowns in this game. I think he threw for like 160 yards. So in weather like this,
and in a 1967 style offense,
yeah,
with weather like that,
probably bare hands as well. So no 2 gloves Kenny Pickett style.
Yep. Nope. Kind of a blowout, I think. Right? What did we say the score was?
Packers got it done. I think it was a relatively close game.
No, what did we say? 20. I'm trying to find it. I have it. Oh, it's 21-17. So it's a close game.
Yeah, it was a close game.
So worthy of a championship. There it is.
There it is.
I think we're running out of time here, but there's the top 10 wackiest weather games of NFL, so to speak. I mean, we could go down the weeds of college games. We can go down baseball games. Remember that mosquito one you were talking about?
Yeah, Jabba Chamberlain, the pitcher for the New York Yankees, running out because it was so humid, and he got eaten up by a swarm of mosquitoes that was, they were over his head. So
there you have it, man. I think there were a couple on the list that had some Commanders in there. I think there had been some weird games that the Commanders were playing in or so. This is a fun one to do. Top 10 wackiest weather NFL games. If you're watching from home, find this on social media and let us know if we missed a game you remember watching as a kid.
Yeah, drop it in the comments.
Drop it in the comments, and hope you don't mind 2 Jets fans hanging out here, having a good time.
Sitting in each other's misery.
Yeah, sitting in each other's misery. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us. Have a great rest of your week. James, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, brother.